Have you ever had a woman vanish for weeks, only to pop back up with a casual text like nothing ever happened? No explanation, no apology, just silence until suddenly your phone lights up with, "Hey, how have you been?" If you've ever been in that situation, you know how it feels. One moment everything seems alive. You're laughing, talking, maybe even going on dates. Then, without warning, it's gone. The conversations stop. Days stretch into weeks. Your mind won't shut off. Did I say something wrong? Was she never interested? Why would she just disappear? That feeling is heavy. You replay every moment in your head. You catch yourself checking your phone too often, wondering if she's talking to someone else. Frustration builds, because being left hanging like that isn't just rejection, it's disrespect. And just when you've begun to let go, she reappears, acting like nothing happened. Friendly, casual, almost expecting you to welcome her back without a word. No mention of the silence, no accountability, just sliding into your world as if your self-respect means nothing. Here's the truth: most men don't realize this is a test. How you respond determines everything. It's not about whether she stays this time. It's about whether she sees you as a man she respects or as a man she can play whenever it suits her. Most guys fail. They react with relief, curiosity, or eagerness and fall back into the same cycle. But you don't have to. When you understand the psychology behind why she left and why she's back, you gain control. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to handle it without ever losing yourself again. So why does she come back after weeks of silence? Why send that casual little text as if nothing happened? The truth is rarely about romance. It's almost never because she suddenly realized how amazing you are. More often, it's because something in her world stopped working. While she was gone, she wasn't getting the attention she craved. Maybe the guy she ghosted you for lost interest. Maybe her other options fell flat. Or maybe she just needed a quick ego boost, and she remembered you were always there to give it. That short, casual message is not harmless. It's a test. She's checking to see if you're still available, still willing to play your old role. She wants to know if you'll welcome her back with no questions asked. And if you do, she learns something dangerous: that she can disappear whenever it's convenient. Then, slide back in without consequence. This is not just about validation, it's also about control. By acting like nothing happened, she flips the script. She's saying, without words, that your feelings don't matter. She's training you to accept her terms. She comes and goes as she pleases, and you just adjust. And once you accept that dynamic, it doesn't end. It becomes the cycle you live in until you decide to break it. Think about what that communicates. If you let her back in without acknowledgement, you're telling her that your time and your emotions are free, that you require no respect in return for your attention. And once she knows that, she'll never treat you as a priority. At best, you're a backup plan, a man she keeps in reserve for when her first choices don't work out. Psychologists call it a rotation, or a hierarchy of options. And if she's returning without accountability, chances are you're somewhere on that list, not at the top. The hardest truth to swallow is this: the way she comes back reveals exactly how much she valued the connection in the first place. If it mattered to her, she would show it. She would acknowledge the silence. She would put in effort to repair the damage. But if all she gives you is casual friendliness, it means she didn't value what you shared, or she assumes you didn't value yourself enough to demand more. Her behavior speaks volumes. If you're willing to listen, the question is whether you'll ignore the message because of how badly you want her back. or whether you'll see it for what it really is, a test of your standards, your boundaries, and your self-respect. When she reappears, this is where most men stumble. The silence cut deep, and her message feels like relief. That sudden wave of comfort is exactly what makes you vulnerable. After weeks of wondering, the moment she pops back up, your brain whispers, "Finally, she's back." Maybe this means something, but that sense of relief is the first trap. It tricks you into ignoring the way she treated you. You forget the sleepless nights, the unanswered messages, the frustration of being dismissed. All you feel is that tiny spark of hope that maybe this time will be different. And with relief comes eagerness. You answer her right away. You let your excitement bleed through every word. Maybe you even suggest meeting up again before she's even proven she deserves your time. But the second you do this, you destroy any leverage you had. You show her that you don't require respect to give your attention. And once she learns that, she'll never feel the need to change her behavior. She knows you'll accept her no matter what. Curiosity is another snare. You've been left in the dark, so of course your mind wants answers. Where was she? Why did she vanish? Was she with someone else? You think if you just ask the right questions, you'll get clarity. But in reality, this just feeds her power. She doesn't need to tell you the truth. She might dodge, give excuses, or turn it into a joke. Yet by chasing answers, you give her exactly what she wanted: your energy, your attention, your emotional investment, without her giving you anything real in return. Then there's the illusion of validation. Many men interpret her return as proof of their worth. They think, she must have realized her mistake. She must have missed me. She must have come back because I'm special. That belief feels good in the moment. It strokes the ego, but it's rarely true. Her return is usually not about you at all. It's about her circumstances, her boredom, her failed options. Her need for attention. If you take her return as a compliment instead of a test, you've already lost. And perhaps the cruelest trap of all is hope. You were starting to move on, beginning to rebuild your peace, when suddenly she appears again. Instantly, that progress collapses, and you start imagining a fresh start. You convince yourself that this time it might be real, that maybe you'll finally build something lasting. But hope is dangerous when it blinds you to reality. And the reality is this: a woman who disappears without respect once is very likely to do it again. These emotional traps: relief, eagerness, curiosity, validation, and hope are the reasons men keep getting stuck in the same painful cycle. She leaves, she comes back, and they welcome her like nothing happened. The cycle repeats, but every time it does, their self-respect takes another hit. Once you recognize the emotional traps, the next step is deciding how to respond. And here's the truth: the very first move you make sets the tone for everything that follows. If you greet her return with blind eagerness, you've already lost. If you act like nothing happened, you've told her she can vanish whenever she wants and slide back in without consequence. That's not how a man with standards operates. The first step is simple: you require acknowledgement. Requiring acknowledgement doesn't mean you explode with anger or launch into a speech about how she hurt you. It means you calmly state the obvious truth: she disappeared, and that has to be addressed. Something as straightforward as, "You went silent for a while, what happened is enough." The point isn't to guilt her into explaining every detail. The point is to establish that her silence mattered, that you noticed, and that you won't play along with her attempt to erase it. This is about setting a boundary. Boundaries aren't walls to push people away. They're standards that show others how you expect to be treated. If you let her back in without requiring accountability, you're teaching her that your time, your attention, and your emotions are cheap. But when you require acknowledgement, you communicate that access to you is valuable. It must be earned with respect. Her response will tell you everything you need to know. A woman with integrity may admit she handled things poorly. She might offer an explanation, even if it's imperfect. That willingness to own her behavior shows at least some level of maturity. On the other hand, if she shrugs it off, changes the subject, or gets defensive the moment you bring it up, that's your answer too. She's showing you that she doesn't respect you enough to take responsibility. And here's why this first step is so powerful. It's not about getting the perfect answer. It's about clarity. If she can't even acknowledge what happened, then you've already learned the truth. You can't count on her. You've saved yourself from wasting weeks or months hoping she'll be different. If she does acknowledge it, you can at least proceed with your eyes open, knowing she has the ability to face her actions. Either way, you win, because you refuse to play the role of the man who accepts disrespect without question. The moment you require acknowledgement, you shift the dynamic. You go from being reactive, hoping she wants you, to being proactive, deciding if she deserves you. That's the mindset of a man with standards. That's the mindset that keeps your self-respect intact, no matter what she does next. This first step, requiring acknowledgement, is where you separate yourself from the majority of men who just let her walk back in. But that's only the beginning. Because once you've set that boundary, the real question is, what comes next? How do you respond in a way that keeps your power and makes her respect your time? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to handle it when she comes back like nothing happened. After you've drawn the line and required acknowledgement, the next strategy is to control the pace of interaction. When she disappeared, she taught you something without saying a word. Instant replies were not important to her. That silence was her standard. So now, when she returns, you reflect that back. You don't need to answer her right away. You don't need to jump at the first ping on your phone. You respond on your own time, when it fits your life, not when it fits hers. This delayed response is powerful for two reasons. First, it proves to you that your world doesn't revolve around her. You've got your own priorities, your own goals, and your own people to invest in. Second, it unsettles her expectations. She likely assumed you'd be waiting. She thought you'd respond instantly, happy just to hear from her again. But when you don't, it disrupts that pattern. It forces her to wonder whether you've moved on, whether you still care, and whether she has to put in more effort to win back your attention. Matching her energy is just as important. If she comes back casual, you don't reward that with over-the-top excitement. You keep it light, polite, even distant if you need to. That doesn't mean being rude. It means mirroring the level of investment she's giving you. When you match her casualness with your own, you send a message you don't get to leave and return without consequences. You'll get back the same level of effort you put in. This shift resets the dynamic. Instead of her dictating when and how the interaction happens, you're showing that your time and attention aren't automatically hers to claim. Ironically, this often makes her chase harder. When you're not instantly available, you become more valuable in her eyes. People tend to want what isn't easy to reach. By controlling your timing and your tone, you remind her that you are not sitting around waiting for scraps of her attention. But here's the key. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games to make her chase you. It's about living your reality. You're not ignoring her to punish her. You're simply prioritizing your own life. If she fits into it, fine. If not, you'll keep moving forward anyway. That's the essence of outcome independence. You win, regardless of her reaction. By slowing down, by matching her energy, by refusing to hand her instant validation. You shift the balance back in your favor. You're no longer the man waiting by the phone. You're the man who values himself enough to respond on his own terms. And that simple shift in energy makes all the difference. There are moments when subtle strategies aren't enough. Sometimes the strongest move is to confront her directly, not with anger, not with bitterness, just calm, clear honesty. You might say, you disappeared for weeks without saying a word, and now you're acting like nothing happened. That's not how I treat people I respect. A statement like this forces reality into the conversation. It strips away her ability to play casual and puts the spotlight back on her choices. Direct confrontation does more than call her out. It declares your standards. You're showing her that if she wants to be in your life, she has to play by the rules of respect and accountability. There's no pretending, no sweeping things under the rug. She either acknowledges her behavior and steps up, or she exposes herself as someone unwilling to take responsibility. Either outcome gives you clarity, but confrontation isn't the only tool you have. Sometimes silence speaks louder than anything you could say. Choosing not to respond at all sends a message of finality. It shows that her disrespect was so blatant, it doesn't even deserve words. Silence communicates that her casual return doesn't undo the damage. She had access to you once, and she lost it. And now, she has to sit with that loss. Silence is powerful because it removes the game entirely. There's nothing for her to argue with, nothing for her to spin. She's left with the uncomfortable realization that she no longer controls your attention. For a woman used to men responding, no matter how she behaves, that absence of reaction can be more unsettling than any confrontation. There's also another option, one that sits between confrontation and silence, using her return as a chance to evaluate her. Instead of rushing to reconnect or cutting her off immediately, you ask questions that reveal her mindset. Something like, "What made you reach out now?" or "How do you usually handle communication when life gets busy?" These aren't needy questions. They're strategic ones. They force her to either explain herself or expose her lack of accountability. Her answers tell you everything you need to know. If she dodges, makes excuses, or jokes it off, then you know. Disappearing is part of her pattern. She's not going to change. But if she owns up, admits she handled it poorly, and makes an effort to show she values you, at least you see a glimpse of maturity. Either way, you win, because you've turned her return into an opportunity to learn the truth. Confrontation, silence, or strategic questioning all serve the same purpose. They protect your self-respect while revealing her character. You don't control whether she vanished. You don't control why she came back. But you do control how you respond. And your response is what determines whether this moment builds respect or destroys it. By now, you've seen that her return isn't the prize, it's the test. The way she handles this moment reveals more about her character than weeks of smooth conversation ever could. And that means your job is to evaluate, not to chase. You're not trying to win her back. You're trying to decide if she's even worth keeping around. The first sign to look at is whether she acknowledges her disappearance. If she admits it, even in a small way, it shows she's at least capable of facing uncomfortable truths. That doesn't erase the disrespect, but it proves she's not living in complete denial. If she refuses to talk about it, if she brushes it off or pretends it never happened, then she's telling you something loud and clear: your feelings don't matter to her. And if they don't matter now, they won't matter later. The second thing to notice is her level of effort. Words are cheap. Anyone can type sorry or throw out an excuse. What matters is what she does next. Does she actually invest in rebuilding the connection? Does she show consistency, attention, or initiative? If she puts in zero effort, her return is nothing more than convenience. But if she tries, if she invests you, at least know she values the possibility of earning her way back. This is where your response strategies come into play. If you're open to giving her another chance, requiring acknowledgement is the starting point. That sets the baseline for respect. If you're willing to interact, but not to pour in emotional energy, casual dismissal works best. You keep things light and distant, showing you're not going to prioritize her after the way she treated you. If you're someone who values clear, direct honesty, confrontation is the strongest move. It forces the truth onto the table and makes your standards undeniable. And if her behavior was so disrespectful that you can't imagine letting her back in, silence is the answer. Sometimes no response is the most powerful response of all. The key here is that every strategy must come from strength, not fear. Too many men react out of desperation. They're afraid of losing her, afraid of being alone, afraid of missing out on what could be. That fear drives weak decisions, and weak decisions always cost you respect. But when you act from strength, when you respond because you value yourself first, you either gain her respect or free yourself from someone who never deserved you. Both outcomes are wins. Remember this. Her return is not about her feelings for you. It's about your standards for yourself. The way you handle this moment doesn't just decide what happens with her. It decides the kind of man you are and the kind of treatment you will accept in every relationship moving forward. At this stage, the most important shift is learning outcome independence. This is where most men struggle, because deep down, they still tie their self-worth to her response. If she texts back, they feel valuable. If she disappears again, they feel rejected. That cycle is poison. It puts your confidence in the hands of someone who already showed you she doesn't handle your feelings with care. Outcome independence breaks that cycle. It means you're genuinely okay with any result. If she respects your boundary and shows accountability, that's fine. If she vanishes again or refuses to step up, that's fine too. Either way, you don't lose yourself. Her choices don't define your worth. They only reveal her character. And when you see it that way, the pressure disappears. You're not clinging to the hope of what she might become. You're calmly evaluating who she is right now. This mindset makes you stronger than most men she's ever dealt with. Women can sense it when a man isn't desperate for a particular outcome. It changes the energy completely. Instead of leaning forward, hoping, waiting, you're leaning back, relaxed, secure. That's attractive because it's rare. But here's the catch: you can't fake it. If you delay responses or act detached just to get her to chase you, she'll feel the manipulation. True outcome independence comes from within, from the confidence that your life is already full and that her presence is optional, not essential. And that's where the real growth happens. Her return is no longer about her. It's about you practicing boundaries, self-control, and emotional regulation. It's about proving to yourself that you can handle disrespect without folding. It's about learning to see behavior for what it is, instead of twisting it into what you wish it meant. These lessons go beyond dating. They strengthen you in business, friendships, and family, because the principles are the same everywhere. Respect, consistency, and accountability. Perhaps the most important lesson is this: how she treats you is information, not identity. Her silence and casual comeback don't mean you're unworthy. They mean she's showing you her priorities and her maturity level. Your job isn't to fix her. It's not to convince her of your value. It's to recognize the truth she's revealing and decide if that truth has any place in your life. When you embrace outcome independence, you win no matter what. If she proves herself, great. You set the standard and she rose to it. If she fails, even better, you cut ties before investing more into someone who couldn't respect you. Either way, you walk away stronger, clearer, and more grounded in who you are. So when she comes back like nothing ever happened, don't be fooled into thinking it's fate or some romantic second chance. It's not. It's a test of her respect for you, and a test of whether you'll hold the line for yourself. If you let her walk back in without acknowledgement, you're teaching her that your time and your emotions are cheap. If you stand firm, you either gain her respect or you save yourself from wasting more of your life on someone who never valued you in the first place. Either way, you win. Remember, this isn't about punishing her or playing games. It's about protecting your dignity. It's about showing yourself that you won't compromise who you are just to keep someone around. The way she treats you is information, not a reflection of your worth. What matters is how you use that information, whether you allow it to trap you in the same cycle, or whether you rise above it with clarity and strength. And here's the truth: once you embrace that mindset, you'll never fear her silence again. You'll see her return for what it is, a moment to choose yourself first. That choice is what keeps your confidence intact, no matter who comes and goes. If this spoke to you, make sure to stay with me, because in the next videos, I'll break down the exact strategies to protect your frame, command respect, and never fall into the same trap again.